Give to Barrett. Cut back over the middle of the 25 to the 20. Breaks a tackle to the 15. Stops, starts 10-5. Touchdown Lions. Holy mackerel.
Throws, end zone. It is caught. What a play back there in the back of the end zone by T.J. Hawkinson.
You're listening to the One Pridecast. All right, welcome to the One Pridecast. I'm joined by Benjamin Solak, Ben, and you wrote a really great article for The Ringer. It was titled, "The Detroit Lions Have the NFL's Most Promising Rebuild." I'll preface this. You're from Grand Rapids. So you've been watching the Lions throughout the entire season, picking up on a lot of things that other people didn't.
Sure.
And in this article, you did a very eloquent job of telling the people to have hope for the Detroit Lions, essentially. I just asked you, how long did it take you? Were you following along? But you had been following along for the Lions most of the season.
Yeah, and it's you're always watching all the teams when you're on like the national beat. Especially for me, like I'm doing a lot of analysis, I'm doing gambling content. So you got to just be exposing yourself to all the teams and kind of seeing what's what. And with the Lions, you just saw a team that was amped up in week 7, and like all the other bad teams in week 4, ready to go, close, almost beat a divisional rival. That was cool. And then as the other teams petered out, as the other teams just, all right, we're going to be a top 10 pick. We're the Giants, we're the Jets, lame duck head coach, lame duck general manager, whatever you want. Lions just didn't. And that's really cool. It's what you expected from a Dan Campbell coach team. But then they also are like figuring stuff out, you know what I mean? Like they switched over play calling, and Dan Campbell was super honest about being like, I don't know what I'm doing, man. Like the first couple weeks, he was like, I'm figuring this stuff out. Like, you gotta give me a minute. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was a good player when he walked in day 1. Took until week 12, week 13, a couple injuries, for him to realize like, oh, he's a really good player, right? There's like a learning process there. So you saw a coaching staff. Both with the ability to keep their guys motivated, keep their guys locked in, and a young team that wanted to win, which is really cool, but also a coaching staff that was learning, right? Didn't even talk about the defense side of the ball, like Aubrey Pleasant, like with the work that you're getting from that defensive backfield. I mean, they undrafted free agent Jerry Jacobs just like locking dudes down before he got hurt, you know what I mean? Like they had a great ability to get a lot out of their young guys. To me, that doesn't go away. And so if I'm going to believe in a rebuild, right, like I said, it's the most promising rebuild, I want a coaching staff that can keep a team active and engaged through losses, and I want a coaching staff that appeals to young guys and gets a lot out of them. To me, that's the Detroit Lions coaching staff. There's a lot of ways this goes left because a rebuild is hard, but it seems like they got the stuff.
Yeah, I think it can go left in the sense of you move on from your head coach in year 1, which is a possibility, which other rebuilding teams had done. Detroit Lions did not because, like you mentioned, there was a lot of development that showed there. And something you wrote in your article was that rather than a rebuilding team like the Lions go for veteran talent, they stuck with the rookies, the undrafted free agents. You mentioned we had 8 rookies on the field against Seattle. Like, who does that when they're trying to be a Seahawks team when this Lions team was not giving up just quite yet? So how do you think the Lions were so successful going the younger route rather than the veteran route?
So it is a choice. It is a mental, it is a philosophy decision from day one. Because we're at the Combine, and we talk all about developmental players, this, that. Malik Willis, Liberty quarterback, always rawer than sushi. How's he going to develop?
I can't wait to hear your thought on him
If you want a player to develop, you got to let him be bad. You got to put him on the field and say, reps are the best teacher, right? You can give a guy as many mental reps as you want, as many Tuesday reps as you want in practice, but the reality is, unless you're putting him on the field and allowing him to make mistakes and then fixing those mistakes constructively without destroying a guy's ego, destroying his confidence over the course of the week, needs reps to get better, right? Like San Francisco with Trey Lance, picked him at number 3. Oh, what if they sit him again? What if he's not ready? Eventually, you just got to play him, right? And if he's going to be bad for a couple weeks, he's going to be bad for a couple weeks. And so there was an acceptance, and that comes from Campbell, it comes from Brad Holmes, and it comes from ownership as well, the Ford family, saying we're gonna put a product down the field that maybe ain't pretty the whole time, right? We're gonna put Penei Sewell out there at left tackle early, and one pretty early. You know what it was late in the season? Real pretty.
It was really pretty,
and it got a lot better. And so you as a nucleus are deciding we're gonna look a little bit ugly, and the Lions looked ugly when they've been trying not to. So they're okay with it. They're ready for it a little bit. We're gonna choose to look ugly for a little bit because we're gonna reap the benefits of that a lot later.
But it was a very entertaining ugly.
It
though.
was, yeah.
Were you not entertained?
No, absolutely. And it was the Rocky movie. It was the underdog every single week, right? Like we would do the Friday show for The Ringer, and we're on the preview show, and every week I was like, guys, Lions might win this one, baby. This might be the one. And obviously it took like 11 games for us to get there. But they were a team that felt like they were in it every fourth quarter, which also like keeps your guys' spirits up a little bit. You're not just getting, just absolutely lambasted by 30 every week. You're in those games. That's nice.
It's a lot of walk-off field goals.
Yeah.
Tied game with Pittsburgh in the ugliest weather that I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, no, they were really close. And you really highlighted a lot of really good talent in your article as well. You talked about Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a 2017 draft pick for the Lions, and Derek Barnes, the rookie. Those two had to step up when Jamie Collins, the veteran, was released. You weren't getting that production out of Germ before Aaron Glenn came in here and started doing that. And you talked about Derek Barnes' development by trial by fire.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's going to look a little bit ugly. And then on the another guy on the defensive side, Amani Oruwariye.
Loved Amani coming out.
Don't you love him?
Yeah. And Amani not hitting with Patricia was frustrating because I liked him as a prospect. I thought this could be a real guy. You get an Aaron Glenn, Aubrey Pleasant defensive coaching staff, and you go, okay, if he's going to develop in anything, we got the guys. Like, this is the coaching staff. I always remember watching Pleasant get in Okudah's face on the sideline, right? And obviously, Okudah had the injury. We didn't get to see what came of that.
What were your thoughts on that?
Guy loves football.
Yeah.
Football. A coach is responsible for understanding what his players need, right? You're going to coach. I was speaking with Nate Tice of The Athletic. His pops was Mike Tice. He always tells the story about Mike Tice coaching the Raiders offensive line in the mid-2010s. Kelechi Osemele, Donald Penn, Rodney Hudson, incredible guys. Had to coach each one of them differently. So different dudes, right? So you got a defensive backfield. You have Jeffrey Okudah, who's a top 3 pick. This was one of the earliest drafted corners in a long time. Ohio State, he was a star. And he came to the league and took it on the chin right away.
Yeah.
There's a way that guy shuts down.
Yeah.
And Aubrey in your face, to me, is you are not shutting down on me. We are like, I'm here. I want you to be really good. I expect you to be really good. You can be really good. You and I are going to do that together. If that's Aubrey's read, that's Aubrey's read. You're paying the coach money to have that correct read. And so it's not my place to say what Jeffrey Okudah needs. It's Aubrey's place.
Yes.
And I would have loved to have seen what Jeff Okudah would look like the rest of that season. But anyway, like Oruwariye a lot, Reeves-Maybin's a perfect example of where Jamie Collins, he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing, right? He was brought in by the old system, but whatever.
Yes.
He'll lead the guys. Became clear during the season that wasn't happening.
Correct.
So we're going to prioritize youth. We're going to prioritize Jalen Reeves-Maybin making some mistakes. We're going to prioritize Derek Barnes, who Dan Campbell said out loud. And that's another thing about Campbell. It's great. He's open and honest with us about what he's telling his players. And he shows the players, like, listen, there's a standard here. Even if we're going to be bad, there is a standard. Said Barnes came in, played some good reps, and he's had some bad weeks. We're going to leave him out there, but he's had some bad weeks, right? And so you get those guys the precious experience they need by saying to a guy like Jamie Collins, we're going to let you go. You can go somewhere else. You know the system better. You be a rotational role, but we're going to prioritize our young guys. And that indicates what the philosophy of the Lions has been this past season and entering this year.
So a lot of development with young guys, but then you have Charles Harris in the trenches, who had not had that production either until he had come to Detroit. So it kind of doesn't matter where you are at in your career. Somehow this Detroit Lions defensive staff came in, tweaked things, and just got production that we've just never seen out of anyone.
Right.
And it's just Dan Campbell hiring Aaron Glenn to come on the staff. AG gets a bunch of defensive coordinator attention. Aubrey Pleasant gets defensive coordinator position. And Detroit, where would you put their defense coming into the season? Where did you, if you recall?
Yeah, so coming into the season, I expected below average defense. I think you still generally got that. And the injuries in the secondary were really tough for them to deal with. Yeah, especially when you're moving from Patricia and you're going to run a lot of man coverage to Pleasant and Glenn, where that Saints-style defense is complex. There's a lot that goes on, and safety-wise, they need help. They got to be able to address that position free agency or draft, because for every Charles Harris, right, there's the guys that you do bring in, or the guys that have stayed, like a Will Harris or whatever, who you try to work the magic and just sometimes it doesn't click as much, right? Like Charles Harris represents those dice rolls where you're just like, all right, this guy was an athlete. Let's see what he can do. And then what was that one game where he just took over? Was that the Arizona game? Right, he's like 3 sacks and a half.
It
right,
was
exactly.
Arizona, yes.
And you're like, all right, that's why we rolled that dice. You know what I mean? Because maybe we're going to get that out of him. And so you have those dice rolls. In general, I think you're still expecting that defense to be around the middle of the pack, because defense is a very volatile thing. It can change really fast. It can get one player, like you can get a Jerry Jacobs undrafted, and then bang, all of a sudden you have yourself like a nickel corner. And so it is a volatile thing. It's hard to prognosticate at this point, but that's a coaching staff that you trust, and they've invested first round picks. They've invested money like Trey Flowers. We'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, okay. And we have to talk more about Penei Sewell.
Yeah,
seventh overall pick, has to move between positions there on the offensive line. No one really knows what he's going to be able to do. They know he's a specimen, but they're not sure how that's going to translate into the NFL.
Yeah.
So I spoke with Penei. I think we had 2 or 3 weeks left in the season. He's like, I didn't do anything this season. I'm like, no, like, He did a lot, and he did it really well. So what is your take on Penei?
I'm not surprised that Sewell says that because that first season is always so, like, your world becomes so much bigger and your horizons expand so much. You're just like, what? Like, it goes by in a flash. You feel like you're in constant scramble mode as a rookie, especially when you're moving around like that. Sewell was, I don't want to be like exactly as I expected, but when Sewell came in, I was confident this was going to be a real good ball player.
Yeah.
And then when he moves to the left side, you go, all right, this is going to be rough for a little bit. Like, when he moves to the other side, you expect this is going to be rough for a little bit because you're going to have, was he the one who made the metaphor where it's like wiping your butt with the other hand? There's an offensive lineman
That's
who
a great metaphor.
who very famously,
I don't think Penei said that.
I can't remember which offensive lineman. It might have been Lane Johnson. I'm an Eagles fan. But there was an offensive tackle who said, when you switch sides, man, it's like wiping your butt with the other hand. And
That's
it's like,
difficult.
Yeah, like you think about it and you're like, oh, like I would generally get how to do that, but that would be different.
You
and
get
it
the concept,
would
but
feel
executing the
uncomfortable.
concept is a little
exactly.
hard.
And so what I always like to do is, like, when you fold your arms, you put one arm over the other. If you try to think about doing it the other way, you can do it, but it feels weird, right?
It feels weird.
Yeah. And so that's what switching sides in the offensive line is. So it's okay for that to be bad for a little bit. Leave him out there. He was still killing people as a run blocker. He had to figure out how to set his hands, figure out how to set his feet, and he did. He's a smart cookie, and he's a super talented athlete. So now you've got Penei with experience on both sides, and that's nice because it allows you to mix and match as you need to in the course of his career. I think he's going to be a great tackle for a long time.
I agree. Okay. What is your season prediction? Do you already have predictions for this upcoming season? Win-losses?
When a team's got the number 2 overall pick and a question mark at quarterback and can't make me do it.
Is it a question on quarterback?
It's going to be just because you're at 2, right? Like if the Lions were at 11, I don't think it would be as much of a conversation.
So you think
right?
Lions might take a quarterback at 2?
I think that when you're that early in the draft, you have to do the diligence on it.
Okay.
Taking quarterback
this year in this quarterback class.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Because even in this year, this quarterback class, you might like a guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, for it to be a generally bad quarterback class doesn't mean there's one guy you don't like. And that's kind of the idea, right? When you're in the top 10, you're in quarterback territory.
Okay.
That is typically the pick you need to spend to go get a franchise guy. So when you have one of those picks, you got to do the work, right? And teams are going to do the work regardless because, what if a guy becomes a free agent in 3 years? Like, you kind of know how that goes. But when you have the number 2 overall pick, and especially when the team in front of you has Trevor Lawrence, you are the first spot where maybe a quarterback change could be had. Goff played well, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Goff's a perfectly acceptable NFL quarterback, and like that's the price at which he was traded. That's kind of the way he was viewed during the end of his career with the Rams. But in general, like, if you're going to be in that early pick, you're going to have to do your due diligence. And if you fall in love with a guy, right? And we talked about Malik earlier. Malik Willis out of Liberty is this guy with such potential, this unbelievable high ceiling prospect. If you fall in love with that guy, you don't get him next year. Not because he may not be here, but because you're probably not, and certainly not planning to, pick in the top 10s. When you have that pick, you have to do the work.
That's okay. Well, there's a lot of talk with Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau going number 2 overall for the Lions, if they're available. So would you rather see one of those edge rushers or a quarterback for Detroit at number 2?
Personally, for how I view Malik and the rest of the quarterback class, I'd take one of the edges because I don't trust the quarterback class.
We can throw
like
Kyle
that.
Hamilton into this as well. You said they need a safety,
and he deserves to be. And I'm writing this weekend. Don't spoil it.
Okay.
But it's about Kyle Hamilton going early.
Okay.
In general, that the more you play with 2 deep safety, which is what Aaron Glenn and that defense is going to do coming from New Orleans, they're going to play man match stuff with 2 safeties on the roof. The more important your safety's versatility becomes. Okay. And a guy like Hamilton, I said, Malik Willis may not come around every year, but you're always going to get high potential quarterbacks. You don't get Malik. We don't see 6'4" safety. Like, this doesn't happen, right?
What's a comparison? A good comparison?
Derwin is the best comparison, right? Derwin James.
Yeah.
Even that is a little bit tricky
Okay.
Because Hamilton played more true on the roof, true single high on the center fielding safety than Derwin did. Derwin played a little bit more in the box. And
Derwin got a lot of love this season.
Real good ball player.
Yeah.
And Derwin falling as far as he did was a reflection of how the league viewed safeties in 2017.
Why are they not drafting them very high then? That's my next question.
So, in general, just think about watching a football game.
Yeah.
Right now, you're looking at it on the TV copy. You can't even see the safeties,
you can't.
right? Those guys are further from the ball. And as a general rule, the further you are from the ball, the harder it is for you to have an impact on the game,
Correct.
right? The ball's generally going to stay about where it is, and then they're going to throw it, whatever. And when they throw it, it's going to the corners, right? So when you play, let's talk about single high coverage, right? Cover 1, cover 3. That safety's in the center of the field. Quarterbacks will just throw where he can't get to,
Yes.
right? And unless your name was Earl Thomas, there were places you couldn't get to.
won't
Unless
get
your name was Ed Reed, there were places you couldn't get to. So you feel like you could neutralize that guy. And so we've seen a swing over the last 5 years and saying, all right, single high safety. So many teams after the Legion of Boom Seahawks really wanted to find themselves an Earl. They all tried. Turns out you can't. So in the last 5 or so years, we've seen a swing away from that. And now there's starting to be a little bit of a counter swing, right? The league develops in pendulums. There are 2 guys responsible for that. One is Marcus Williams.
Okay.
He played for Aaron Glenn in New Orleans. Is potentially going to be a free agent. Makes a lot of sense for the Detroit Lions. And the other is Jesse Bates, who just played in a Super Bowl. These guys could play single high, but they could also do combo stuff. They could get down in the box. They could go cover somebody. And that sort of player is Kyle Hamilton, right? Okay. And so if you feel like your defense needs unlocking in the back 7, if you feel like you can generate pressure up front, do a little blitzes, Trey Flowers is going to take a stab, whatever, then yeah, you can look at Kyle Hamilton and say, this guy might be the solution. This guy might be the force multiplier, the tide that lifts all boats in our defensive backfield. You got to believe it with conviction, because that's going to be the earliest drafted safety ever. But if this is the way the league is going, there's a little bit of a backswing right now saying safeties are probably more important than we've realized over the last few years.
Man.
Yeah.
Who do you have picking up Kyle Hamilton?
Right now, I would guess that if he gets 3 to the Texans.
Okay.
I would say that Houston is in a position to take the best player available. And to me, the best player available at that point is probably going to be Kyle Hamilton. At a lot of points in this draft, almost at every point in this draft, I think the best player available might be Kyle Hamilton. It's making that commitment to taking a safety top 5 and saying, we're going to prioritize pass coverage. We're going to prioritize this approach over everything else, which when you have a dude that maybe is an 8-sack-a-year player, 10-sack-a-year player like Hutchinson or Thibodeau, it's a lot safer to go, we'll take that guy and have good stats, and no one will yell at us. You know what I mean? And so it does take a big chest to do it. And so we'll see. Well, we're going to hear a lot about the top teams over the next month or so and start to figure out who's going to go where. We'll see if Hamilton has that sort of run.
Okay, we'll wrap it up with, I do want to ask, number 32 overall.
Yeah.
Some mock drafts do have Detroit drafting a quarterback at 32. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that 5th-year option is a tag that gets put on the end of a contract, right? You have a 4-year deal as a first-year pick, and then you have a 5th-year option.
Right.
And it's going to be cheaper than the market price for a quarterback, assuming that quarterback is good, assuming that quarterback is a second-year guy.
Okay.
A second contract guy. You only get a 5th-year option on a first-round pick.
Yes.
And so that's why that 32 becomes really interesting. That was the Teddy Bridgewater pick. That's the Lamar Jackson pick. So the theory basically goes, if we get a good quarterback, we will wish we drafted him at 32 instead of 33. So we might as well, give it a shot, give it a swing, right? We'll see who's available. I would like that. I wouldn't mind that at all, especially with Goff still on contract. You can go get a rookie at 32, put him out there in training camp. If you Russell Wilson's Matt Flynn, sick. You're starting week 1. If you Trey Lance's Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not going to start all year. Yeah. That's okay. That works. You're just going to get that guy in the building, and it gives you another dice roll we've been talking about at quarterback. So I'm a Desmond Ridder guy to Cincinnati. Had a great week. Yeah. Desmond's making it to 32, and the Lions say, we're going to give that a try. I would love that. I wouldn't fault them at all.
All righty. So, bottom line, some hope for the Detroit Lions.
Absolutely. Plenty of hope for the Detroit Lions. Yes. Coaching staff is good. Nuts and bolts, talk about like building a house. So the bones of it are good. Yeah, you know
bones are real good.
Foundation's good. Now it's a matter of let's get healthy. Let's have a good offseason. Let's get some momentum.